Well, we're on to our third and last session for the day that looks at gender and the poser of negotiation. How women are exercising their rights in the 21st century, featuring Sara Pilot talking with Meena Ganesh. It's been seen that increasing participation by women in leadership roles and exercising of their agency influences the way gender dynamics operate in the family, in the workplace, and in society in general. Sara Abdullah Pilot is the chairperson and co-founder of CEQUIN, a Delhi-based NGO working on empowerment of women and girls, with a special focus on adolescents since 2009. She has over 20 years of experience working with the community at both grassroots levels and the management, as well as strategic levels. Prior to co-founding CEQUIN, she had worked with UNIFEM, which is the United Nations Development Fund for Women, specializing in gender budgeting. Sara is also the chairperson of the All India Football Federation Women's Committee since 2014, and has also received awards like Woman of the Decade in Community Leadership at the Women's Economic Forum, Indian Woman Achievers Award, ASSOCHAM Ladies League Award to prominent women in India, which resulted also in the Sara Pilot Scholarship by Rai University. Meena Ganesh is one of India's foremost business leaders and most successful entrepreneurs with nearly 3 decades of experience in industries, including healthcare, consulting, technology, outsourcing, education, and e-commerce. She is the CEO and co-founder of Portea Medical, India's largest and fastest growing home healthcare company. With over 1,700 employees and operations across more than 20 cities, Portea brings in home to patients the full range of geriatric, chronic, post-operative care, as well as allied healthcare services. And Meena is leading the charge as the company expands to 50 cities over the next 2 years, providing affordable and convenient healthcare solutions. Earlier, Meena was the promoter and board member of Tutor Vista and CEO and MD of Pearson Education Services. She has also ably partnered with GrowthStory.in and nearly a dozen new age internet technology-enabled startups. A few of them that are leaders in the category include BigBasket.com and Bluestone.com. Let's listen in to Sara and Meena.
Hi, Meena.
Hello, Sara. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Very good. So shall we get started, Sara, on our conversation? Absolutely. So why don't I start by asking you the first question, Sara? You've been working with a lot of underprivileged women, especially from the minority community, helping them get more empowered, to recognize their rights, and to take their rightful place in the world. Would you like to share some of your experiences?
Yes, CEQUIN was co-founded by me and my partner Laura about almost 12 years ago now. Having previously worked with the UN and really seen the change that organizations like the UN can bring about to the life of a woman or a girl, which is what really propelled us to set up the Center for Equity and Inclusion, or CEQUIN, as we call it. It doesn't have anything to do with sequins with an S. We have done Silai and tailoring and things, but as such, it's not about sequins. So I just wanted to clarify that. But yes, this whole topic that Meena has put into the knowledge factory as this discussion between us, I think is so crucial for any of us. Not necessarily those, I mean, you are not even from an NGO. I am, and I work with women and girls, and I work on gender, so that this is very much my world. But actually, I think it's so essential for everyone to actually be a part of this conversation, this topic of, how are women exercising their rights in the 21st century. And because there may be a myriad of rights that are available out there, and there are, but the thing is that are women and girls able to actually go out there? Do they know what their rights are in the first place? And then can they go out there and demand their rights? That is something that we see. For example, there's every year when there are exams and college admissions, we hear that, oh, the girls have done so well and the girls are doing better than the boys and their exam results are better, and the girls have put the boys to shame. And yet when you look then at the next step and you look at the numbers of women in the workforce, the numbers there are just dismal, actually. And it's very scary and concerning to see how these numbers have been dropping sharply across India. They're not climbing, they are actually reducing. And Delhi in particular has seen a huge slump since demonetization, and now, of course, with the pandemic, it has hit women the hardest. So there's some gap there, because you may have the girls who have a good education, who may come out with those kind of numbers, but what's going on? Why is it that those girls who are coming out to college, whose family are allowing them to continue their higher education, why is it that they are not able to then move forward with their careers? Is it that the family is just allowing them to go to college for a short while before then they get married? So it's just a little bit of a stopgap arrangement, as opposed to looking at them being able to then make that choice. Do they have that choice? So when we talk about agency and when we talk about, these kind of topics, do they have the choice to actually decide that, okay, well, now I've gone to college and I've done very well and I have the grades. What do I want to do next? And that's something that seems to be missing. So as I said, I may be in the world of an NGO, and this may be something that I work, every day on this subject. But then what about you? This is your world in a different sense, because not just from your own personal point, your own personal story of how you got to where you've gotten to, and I'm sure you had many struggles along the way, but also the women in your workforce. How do you go about ensuring that they can progress and they don't just become one of those statistics?
So, Sara, I would love to know any interventions that you have done, which is actually bring back this a little bit of the agency. And I love the point that you made.
We seem to have lost Meena's connection. So till the time she's coming on board, Sara, I would really like you to talk about, continuing your conversation. I think Meena is here. So,
yes,
why don't you first answer that and then I'll come back.
Sorry. So my question was, Sara, what are some of the things that you're able to do to bring about agency in the lives of people, even especially of these young girls, at least in some aspects of their life? So I would love to hear some of your interventions which have given them the sense of power and the sense of the ability to influence something in their lives.
One of the interventions that I feel closest to my heart and that I am very passionate about is a project where we use football and sports as a tool for empowerment. It's not the only thing that we do in CEQUIN, but it's one of our flagship programs. And if we talk about agency, it's something that we can see. And in fact, Neeti did a study for us, and it was, we interviewed, in fact, quantitative data. During the pandemic, we wanted to make the most of our time, because while I know that football works, that makes a difference in the lives of the girls who go out there and even touch the ball. It can sound a little bit far-fetched that, oh, so you're telling me that just because they come and play football twice a week, it changes their life. So having somebody like Neeti come in and do a study and talk to 300 girls in Jamia, in Delhi, and find out actually what have the changes been in their lives, it really reinforces that, yes, actually it has changed their lives. Because from girls who otherwise were not, stepping out of their home to go to school was a challenge, coming out to play a sport, especially football, which is stereotypically a boy sport, for them to even cross that threshold and come out into the public space, reclaim the public space, and then they have a group, they have their own community, they have their own identity. The confidence in this study, I mean, the girls who now play football versus the control group, their confidence levels are huge. They have traveled out of Delhi. They are able to have a conversation with the opposite sex without being nervous about it. They are more interested in their health, in the food, in their diet, not eating junk, not for any other reason, but because, they want to perform well at the football field. And all these things actually mean that they perform better even in their academics. So while I can't say that was their focus actually, usually once they get onto that football field, all they want to do is improve their football skills. But by default, they actually find that their grades, their marks, their results in school, because they can concentrate, because they're eating better, so they knuckle down and their grades get better. And then it's like a whole world opens out to them. So when we talk about agency, it's actually, again, knowing what are my options, what are my choices, and what do I need to do in order to achieve that goal. So if I think that, I don't want to get married at 16 like the rest of my peers, and I want to delay getting married, and I want to go to college, and I want to have a job after that, then it starts now, in terms of, I better make sure that in school I study and I get the grades, because if I don't, I'm pretty much going to be pushed either into marriage, or I won't have the option to come to somebody like, Meena, and ask for a job, because I won't be capable. So actually this idea of choice and this idea of agency comes about every step of the way. What are my options here? What are my options there? What are my options at the next step? And also, I do feel, while I know we've moved very far away from this charity mode, and when we talk in terms of feminism, this term now agency, this term actualization is something that's used more. And I agree, this is not charity. But on the other hand, it's not fair to expect that a girl, given the constraints, given the kind of situation that she lives in, is able to just break out of everything and fulfill her goals by herself. She needs that support. She needs the help. So whether it's an NGO, CEQUIN, whether it's an employer like you, who, and you can tell us about what you do to ensure that you retain your female staff and things like that, whether it's the community, whether it's the religious leaders, whether it's, the government and the infrastructure, making sure that the buses are safe and the parks are safe. Everybody has a role to play in ensuring that this girl is able to achieve what she wants to.
That's really fascinating, Sara. Very interesting to see how an intervention can work in so many different dimensions than what it was envisaged to be. Very, very interesting to see that. Thank you for that. You're on mute, Sara.
Sorry. Your own working life has been so varied. But is it something that you have particularly had an interest in, looking at your numbers? For example, like sex disaggregated data is so difficult to come across. When we look at even entrepreneurs in India, I think Meena had shared it's something like 7 out of 100 entrepreneurs are women. So personally, in terms of your story, how did you get to where you are? And within your various organizations, was it something that you very deliberately made sure that you had either a certain percentage of workforce who were women, or then the women that you got, that you did things in particular to retain them? Or was it just, we choose the best, and whether that best person is male or female, then that's fine?
Thanks, Sarah, for that question. Let me just share a little bit about my own journey. I've been now an entrepreneur for 21 years. In the year 2000, I started my company. And prior to that, I've been in the corporate sector for some years before that. So from 2000 till now, I have built a number of different businesses which are in various different sectors. Well, the first company I started was in the BPO sector, then in the online education, and thereafter now Portea Medical is in the home healthcare space. Also, I have promoted companies such as Big Basket, Bluestone, Home Lane, a number of different startups which use a combination of technology, consumer reach, and build very scalable businesses which have a deep impact in their industries. Now, now when I look back over the last 20 years, the number of women entrepreneurs at that point in time when I started were zero. Today, it has probably gone from 0 to 10% if I'm being charitable. It has been a very, very slow rise. That said, most of the 10% that have come in have probably come in the last decade. And in the last 5 years, we are seeing a further acceleration. Now, what does it take for a new industry or a new format of career for women to start building some momentum? What has happened is that I started working in 1985. So 35 years back, the number of women in the workforce was very less. And I was I joined after management school. So the number of women in the management schools were less. The number of women who joined the workforce were very low. And then the number of women who continued in corporates and in other large organizations, as you go up the ladder, there was a lot of attrition. And that women used to probably work till the mid-30s, and then a lot of them used to drop off. Now that has changed quite substantially. And the same thing has to happen in the entrepreneurship space also. What do you need for that? You need to have social for entrepreneurship, as a social permission for careers were granted, I suppose, for 30 years or back, and things have started to slowly build up. Family circumstances and the support systems need to build up for that. The reason why you need to do something different for entrepreneurship is that, unlike in a career in a corporate, things are very, very disruptive when you do a startup. You cannot assume that each day is the same as the other. There is no concept of a routine. There is no clarity whether your startup will succeed, whether you'll have to put in more hours, you have to change your model. So it's something which requires a lot of thinking, a lot of rework, a lot of hard work. And that kind of disruption, it can have its impact on what you're doing, the rest of your family and life also. Is the society ready to give to support women, leave alone, maybe not permission is a very strong word to use, but to support women to take that route which is disruptive? That is another big change that needs to happen. Just like corporates, over the years, created various systems to help women stay through the course, to not drop off, by providing them the right support systems within the organizations for maternity leave or coming back from work, helping them through the process of rejoining in case they have taken a break, providing them mentors who worry about their career and make sure that women are also considered when new roles are coming up, or there's no unconscious bias which assumes that women won't do certain roles, are not fit for certain roles. Today in the morning, for instance, I was talking to an organization, and one of the questions they asked is, do you think women are fit for field roles? I said, ask the woman. Why do you ask me? Is the woman fit for the woman role? Ask that woman. Is she happy to go do this field role? If she's happy, she's fit for it. It's not a, you don't have to create a policy saying that women don't do this or ask them. They will tell you. So that those kind of changes need to come and have come in the corporate sector, which is good, which has helped. Now, a similar kind of change need to happen in the entrepreneurship space also. Women are extremely capable when it comes to doing startups. You see the number of women in the lower income groups, the ones that are working in the self-help groups in villages. Most often, the microfinance is taken by these self-help groups. The women are the ones which are setting up the small businesses, doing a great job, returning all the money. They are the best in terms of repayment track record that they have. They're superb, and they go back and get more money, and they start to, so they have the ability to do that. That's one example. The other is, you look at the number of YouTube channels and so on and so forth, home businesses that women have set up, amazing amount. The level of the quality of work that they come up with the home baking and creating crafts and setting up of or doing education from home, they have done a lot. But what is stopping them from going mainstream and becoming a large business, a scaled business, which has the guts to go out and raise money from venture capitalists, fail sometimes, succeed sometimes? Now that requires a little more of a leg up. Some affirmative action seems to be missing there or seems to be required. I'll tell you a few things. Firstly, the number of women venture capitalists that are out there are so few. So when women are going out to raise money for their startups, they perhaps face the same unconscious bias that women were facing in the corporates, and perhaps it's less so. But here they're probably facing that. So you need to overcome that by having more women investors who can provide the money. Women need to know how to network with others so that they know they can see other very capable women who have started up, who have succeeded, who failed, learn from their failure. So the network that exists for men entrepreneurs, we need to enable more women to get into the mainstream of that. Not only network with other women, but also with men. Show them the role models. And of course, it's important for women also to overcome their hesitancy that careers are okay, but startups are not for us because it's very difficult. So some of these transformations over the years have to take place, and few have taken place, and that's why you're seeing a larger number of women coming now to become entrepreneurs. But it is a journey. It's going to take many years before we can reach to a level where we say, okay, 25% of new startups are with women entrepreneurs.
And it's not only with the startups, and as you said, of course, the challenge with entrepreneurs is that much more. Like you said, tomorrow is a day where you don't know what it's going to bring you, and the kind of risks that are involved are very different to going into a job or into the corporate sector. But I've seen myself where, for example, we started an office in Mewat, and this region in particular, all the developmental figures, index, everything, it is one of the most backward districts in India. And we set up an office there a few years ago, and we were looking for one male employee and one female employee. And we found them both, and they were both around the same age, and they both happened to be Muslim. Now, the male, his career progressed as one would have hoped and expected that it would. He has developed skills which he didn't have before, and in fact, he's still with CEQUIN. Very sadly and unfortunately, the lady who started with him, she was capable, of course, that's why she got the job. But then slowly you started to see that she would be accompanied to meetings by her brother or her father. They didn't like her doing some of the things. I mean, she was going out into the community. What was she doing that was not to like? But whatever it is, they had concerns about what she was going to do. And then one fine day, she just disappeared. Now, I don't mean that in a way that something has happened to her, but just that she stopped coming. I can't hear you. Okay. That she stopped coming to work. And it was something that was a lesson for all of us, that again, it is not fair. It was, I would say, maybe a mistake or an oversight on our part to think that just because we have given both the man and the woman a chance to get a job with CEQUIN, and we're not treating them differently, that they can both take this opportunity and run with it. And actually, that was not really fair and not what she needed, most likely. And so now what we do is, when we have, and of course we've had many more women now, because our projects are growing in Mewat, so we've hired more women. And we've seen that with a little help from us, with engagement even with their family, so that when their families have concerns, we are able to talk to them, and we do need to step in. For example, even in Delhi, there's this wonderful young woman who works for us, and her husband and her in-laws have a huge problem with her coming out to work. And she always dresses very smartly. She's very particular, because she knows when she goes out to the community, she's representing CEQUIN. But they all feel very threatened. The husband feels very threatened. The in-laws feel very threatened. She's Muslim. They want her to wear the niqab. She has refused, her personal choice. It's nothing to do with us. But the thing is, she needs that support on our side, because all the things that she's facing in her home personally, in order to just keep her career, which she loves her job. She wants to be financially independent. She likes the fact that the money goes to her directly. She started with us as a member of the Mahila Panchayat. She used to come in for trainings. And now she is the one who coordinates 7 groups. She goes to the lawyers and helps coordinate legal help for recourse for women who are in abusive situations. So her life, what she was when she came to us a few years ago, to what she is now, is completely unrecognizable, and it's really quite fantastic. But it's not without her having to face a lot of battles on every single angle. And I mean, is it fair, and is it possible? Does everybody? She's very strong, and she has that kind of willpower, and she says, come what may, I'm not going to crack. But I mean, again, does everyone have a limit? And if they push hard enough, will she also face that limit, or is she going to be able to withhold it? And of course, as her employee, there's as much as we can do, and the kind of support that we give her, and we have conversations with her husband, and as much support and help so that we can buffer things for her. But at the end of the day, this is her life, and she is having to face these challenges. And so it's very disappointing, actually, that we're still in this situation. Sometimes it feels like, has anything changed at all? That a woman who just wants to go about in a very decent, dignified way, come to work, that too to help in the community that she lives in, is facing this kind of backlash.
Fantastic conversation, Meena and Sara. I would love for this to go on, but I do want to make sure that we also have some audience questions for you. We have lots, and I think there's an entire bunch of students from St. Aloysius College who have questions, but I'm afraid, because of time, I'll have the time only to pick up 2 or 3, but maybe we can start with you, Meena. Maybe you can unmute. So Vanshika Shetty, who's a BBA student of St. Aloysius College, says that negotiation for sure is an art that comes with real-time practice or dealing with argumentative scenarios that is purely based on one's own approach. But she feels that gender stereotypes have a role. Do gender stereotypes have a role at all in terms of playing with one's mindset while negotiating? Very, very, very deep question. So do they affect the approach of negotiating? Does your gender affect it?
It's a very, very good question, because the general assumption is that women are poor negotiators, and women tend to give this mantle to themselves. A lot of women, and even in businesses, even as startup entrepreneurs, and a lot of the women that I have interacted with, they tend to take a little bit of a backseat when it comes to negotiations. Especially when let's take an example of negotiation with an investor. You will find in many cases a woman founder may bring somebody along because they feel that they're good at it. I actually very strongly object to that, or rather, I have a completely different view. I think women are the best negotiators because we are very. Our superpower is that we know, we make an effort to understand the other person's agenda. We really make an effort to go under their skin, to connect with them, to know where are they coming from, what are they looking for. Because at the end of the day, what is a negotiation? It's two people agreeing on something, which means that both have to win. It cannot be that I win and you lose. That's not a negotiation. That's just a forcing something down someone's throat, which is never going to be a long-term solution. So if negotiation is about two people winning, who better than a woman who's so good at making that the empathetic nature that women have, or going under somebody's skin and understanding what their requirements are. The problem is negotiation has been, in many cases, portrayed as something which is you win, I win, and you lose, and that's why the problem comes. Women do not like conflict, perhaps, but there is no conflict in negotiation. Negotiation is entirely about getting on a common agenda and making things work.
Fantastic. In fact, through your conversation, Sara and Meena, I couldn't help notice, while both of you work at different, levels in the society, different areas of work, but, the threads are so similar. So that was what sort of struck me. Sara, the next question is to you. This is from Sneha D'Souza, who's a very young BCom student from St. Aloysius College. She says, as a woman, many times the very access to an opportunity is taken away because I'm a girl. Not just in any major administrative situations, but even at a basic level, such as decision making at one's own home. And I know, Sara, how close this topic is to you. So what can be done to make sure that I am able to take better decisions at home?
I think clarity, sorry, my dog wants to say hello. Clarity is so important, and knowing what you want to do and knowing that it's right. Everyone may not agree with it. I think this is something that is a fallacy, and that if I want to do what's right, and if I want to do something that's good for me, I don't mean in terms of walking all over everybody else and stepping on people's toes, not in that way. But if I know that this is how I would like my life to go, and I'm clear, then that strength actually enables those decisions to be taken in a way where you're not clouded. Because when there isn't clarity, then, oh, this also, and this person said that also, then I read 5 other things on the internet. And so now, how do you take a decision in that way? Somewhere I think that when you know that actually I'm an individual and I have a right to live my life as a free person. Yes, I have duties. Yes, I have duties as a daughter. I may have duties as a sibling. I may have duties as a mother. I may have duties as a friend. But when I remove all these roles and all these identities, I am also a person. And I have a life that I want to live A to Z, so that when I am lying on my deathbed, I feel that, okay, this was not a life wasted and I lived the way that I wanted to. Then I think with that security that I am not doing anything wrong, then I can make decisions and talk to people. And it's okay also to make mistakes. I think nowadays this whole thing that, oh my God, I shouldn't make a mistake and I should be perfect and everything I do should be perfect, or I should pretend at least that I haven't made mistakes and I should cover up. Also, we do ourselves a disservice, because we are all human beings and we most certainly will make mistakes, and hopefully learn from them, hopefully grow from them and correct course, or maybe go in a whole different direction, who knows. But be open, be flexible. You really don't know what may be around the corner. Look at Meena. All the things, I'm sure if you asked her 30 years ago that did you think you would do this and reach this point, I'm sure she'd say no. Everything is not planned in such a linear way, and how boring life would be if that is how it was. But stick to your ethics, stick to your values, and then let life unfold. And it can be really quite incredible if you're able to do that.
Fantastic. She was referring to the other Meena, not me.
I know, but okay. Well, I was referring to
the
this.
one question the next question is from Shikha, who says, do we need to make sure that young men and boys are also sensitized to the need of women around them so that then girls can really work to their full potential? Either of you can actually comment on it. I think it's a really, really important question.
It's a very important, if I may.
Yes.
So most of us talk about how we want to bring up our girl child to be independent, to be able to fulfill their potential. But I think it's super important to bring the little boys that we have in our homes to, of course, fulfill their potential, but also to play an important role in understanding that they and their sisters, their siblings, and other women in their lives are also equally important. Most of us tend to focus a lot more on giving that additional leg up to our girls without necessarily sensitizing the boys to make sure that the girls need to be treated in a certain way, whether it is at home or at work. The other thing is that I feel today a lot of boys are probably feeling a little threatened by the capability of that the girls are demonstrating. And I do find in families where they have both boys and girls, the girls tend to overshadow and the boys tend to take a little bit of a backseat. Now, while that may be okay, while that might work, but it's probably important to point out to the boys not to be threatened, because the same this behavior may come into the workplace also, where they see strong women. If they feel threatened, then the behavior that they will in a home they may not behave badly, but at work they may behave in a manner which is not appropriate. For instance, they not give them the opportunities that they deserve just because they're threatened by the success that the women will have. So I think it's important to do that.
Okay. Sara, do you want to comment on it, or should we move to the next?
I think in one word, the answer is absolutely yes. There is no question that we can go forward without men and boys being part of this conversation. At CEQUIN, we have a separate program called Mardo Wali Baat, and these conversations, the sensitization, the workshops, everything that we do involves the men and the boys, because you cannot have this conversation it's like I'll preach to the converted. That is not the point. And the point is not that if I have a daughter, she should learn self-defense and she should carry a pepper spray. The point is actually to talk to the men so that they can also understand. This sounds a little basic, but in a way of what's in it for them. And I think, and I really hope that with this COVID and the pandemic, the understanding that, I am not okay until every last person is okay. While there is still COVID floating around, even in New Zealand, I'm not okay. So that interconnection, I think people are realizing as far as the pandemic are concerned. But are we able to use that as an example that even I, as a boy or as a man, I am not going to fulfill my potential if my sister, friend, mother is not, because the country will not progress, my family will not progress, or I'll have a miserable sister or a wife sitting at home, therefore my mental health is not going to work out. For them also to understand, again, it's not a charity thing that, it's okay, I'll do this little thing for my sister and I'll get on with my life, but to again understand the interconnection in our lives, that until all women and girls are able to exercise that agency, then nobody is going to be able to progress beyond a point. And it's very superficial to imagine, even for the men, to imagine that their lives, it's right what Meena was saying, that often you do have this sense of, feeling threatened. But again, to unpack those conversations with them and say, okay, maybe on the surface of it, you feel like, oh, if there are more women in the workforce, they're going to take my jobs away. But to be able to sit and have more detailed and more in-depth discussions about it so that they can actually see what the truth is, as opposed to what it may appear at first glance. And we find that it does actually work very well as long as you're not lecturing. If I sit a group of 16-year-old boys there and I lecture them, it is not going to work. It does not work. But if it's something where sometimes, by the way, you bring in gender while you're doing career training or you're doing something that they're interested in, then even they start to make those connections by themselves.
One question, I don't have the name of the guest here, is anonymous, but I think the question is really important, so I picked it up. And Meena, perhaps you can answer this. The question is that, as an entrepreneur, and we had a session earlier today where a very young woman entrepreneur who's, created a snack brand talked about the fact that, there are very, very few women, even in the space that, she operates in, which is a sort of food technology. And it was very difficult for her to sort of figure out initially how to even go about it. So the question here is, as a woman, if all that matters is my capability, how can I make sure that I pursue my dream of starting my own enterprise?
So I would love to say that all that matters is your capability, and that's all, and you will shine in the world. But you have to find the network, you have to find the avenues that will teach you many things that you need to learn. Whether it is market access, whether it's technology, whether it is being able to get investments, all of this needs help. And there are number of avenues through which people can learn this. There are organizations like TAI. There are IIM Bangalore runs a program for women entrepreneurs. There is Let's Venture, which is an angel investing platform, which is only all the angels there are women. So there are a lot of these networks which are getting a lot of popularity, which help women entrepreneurs. So you have to make an effort to go out and reach out to those so that you can learn. Because sitting and waiting for things to happen just because you have the capability doesn't necessarily cut it. You have to go out and demand your rights, so to speak.
Well, fantastic. I wish we could go on. Such an important conversation and such an important topic. And we couldn't have asked for better speakers than Sara and Meena to talk about it. But to all the audience who are part of this conversation today at Knowledge Factory 2021, remember, this is just the beginning of this conversation. Keep your questions coming. And I'm sure the more we discuss, the more we dialogue, and more we keep conversing, I'm sure this really important points that Meena and Sara raised around restoring agency and making sure that everybody, and Sara made a really important point about everybody reaching their full potential as opposed to empowering women, we can really change the mindsets. Thank you so much, Sara and Meena. Thank you very much for joining.
Thank you, Meena. Bye.
Thank you so much, Sara, and both of you, Meena Ganesh and Meena Vaidyanathan, for your perspectives on women's rights. And please continue to do the fabulous work that both of you do to change the lives of millions more women and men.